Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to EFA126 on this Monday, July 27th. The pros and cons of COVID, right? Pros and cons. And I'm just going to touch on two cons, and I just want to talk about the pros. And listening to, I've been really distancing myself from anything but a lot more focus on a lot of things, but the distancing myself from a lot of different news sources out there. And because, and I talked about this on previous EFAs, and we've known this for a long time, the controls of networks and so forth. And there's only certain sources that I listen to and certain individuals that I listen to. And why? Because I feel that they do their homeworks and they do have their finger on the pulse and that kind of stuff. And from conversation this weekend and throughout, and even one today with a business associate, there's a lot of things that came to my mind, and that's why I want to talk about the pros and cons of COVID. And when I looked at today, just before I sat down here, I said to myself, Jean-Guy, if you were to write down what are your pros, what for you as a person, right? What are the pros of COVID? And I obviously I started with family, then I went with health, then and this is I'm gonna go through this, but there's a priority that came out of my mind. There's a priority that when I started writing this down. And that's so I just basically asked myself, and I went family, health, focus, reorganize, prioritize, values, and unload. That's what I wrote for myself, right? This is my notes here, and some other notes I'm going to talk about here. But pros, again, family, health, focus, reorganize, prioritize, values, and unload. And those were my pros, and that I found with COVID. And there's a lot of overall, and I think a lot of these values. You people, if you actually sit and interview individuals one-on-one and talk about those values, I think a lot of these values have augmented and have been focused on and reprioritized and etc. for a lot of individuals. A lot of individuals with COVID, and we talked about this in March and April, May and June. But when you look back now, and this has only been since March, right? Since March 2020, so it hasn't been that long. And if you look in that short amount of time, the restructuring that you've done, the prioritization, the focus, and etc., it's a lot. If you look at your life, I'll guarantee you, and those that haven't done any changes, then giddy up. But and a lot of those that did do a lot of changes: family, health, focus, reorganize, prioritize, values, and unloading. Right, and basically that whole focus and prioritizing and reorganizing, and that you end up unloading a lot, and then that focus gets so much stronger, and that drive and that hunger, right? And those that have done it and gone through it, and there's trials and tribulations to all this. It's not a cakewalk, right? And it's a lot. But that said, it's amazing what it's doing, and those that are applying it. So when I'm looking at the pros, that's what I would say with COVID-19. And we can go break all these down, how much, like just as simple as my family boardroom. Like I said, in March 12th, when all this started, I made it mandatory for my family to sit at a boardroom table, i.e. the dinner table. I have one meal a day, and I have to with them. And I've talked about this on a few occasions, but that strength in itself. And like, is there times that we can't do it? Absolutely. Things happen, right? But at the best we can, we sit at a table together for dinner, right? And that's how we approach life. And that really, I see it. My wife has seen it. My daughters have seen it. The relationship between my daughters have seen it. So it's amazing what it does, right? That value. Those are all old school values. If you look back at all your cultures and you go back in time, you'll see where those values were. And at some point, the system changed the values, right? The system started raising children and so on and so forth. So that's why when I look at the pros here, those are strong pros that I'd love to have conversations with individuals on health. Actually, I'm gonna have a dinner on Friday, and a lot of these things will be discussed. And I know that because I know the individual's mindset. And it's going to be a lot of this kind of stuff that will come into conversation. And when I look at cons, what I wrote was on the premise of respect is earned. So thinking of the premise, respect is earned. The system is losing that respect of the previous governance had earned, right? There's a respect in the system. And when places like Canada, for example, and a lot of places like Uruguay and that, there is a participation because there's still the respect for the system, right? As fragmented as it is sometimes, there's still a respect for the system. And there was a topic that was touched on today, and I've said this before, like what's going on in the U.S., because there's a lack of respect of the system. And we in Canada, that kind of stuff is happening too often now. And once you start losing respect of the system, i.e. the governance on top and everything they stand for, and I'm all this in the bag of chips, and then it all starts frailing again and again and again, and eventually the people don't believe. The people don't believe. And that's why when there's good rules and good regulations and things that have to be in place, and then people start questioning, they question the facts, they question the data, they question the obvious, right? And why? Because of who's delivering the message. And that's why. And so we as a nation, we as a people must get governance into power that the people have respect for. And that governance must not, or ought or should have known not to, like, lose that trust that was earned in their governance, right, to their people. And I've talked about on previous EFA reverse engineering. I think a lot of these politicians do a lot of reverse engineering. What's the worst case scenario that's going to happen to us? Let's look at every one of them, and then if we start here, what would happen if we did so? And then they reverse engineer it, and then to the point of minimal or effects is touch them, right? They don't get stained. So when I look at that, that is what's happening in the U.S. That is going to happen to Canada, and that'll happen in your country if you lose the respect of your governance, right? If the governance has no respect, then people don't apply rules. Like the mask, the facial mask. We cannot afford a second lockdown, correct? As we as a people, psychologically, children, and the other con, and I'm going to talk about this, the COVID stare. Those that read eyes, I will understand what I'm saying, the COVID stare. The individuals that you walk up to people and they don't know you, and they're looking for the mask, and they have this look, right? I'm an eye reader. I am. I'm reading to people's souls all the time. And like when I used to work the system or different parts of my life, I could see those like they wouldn't even tell me on the opiates. And I would ask them, like, how many opiates are you on? Right, because they had that opiate look in their eyes, right? That 1,000-yard stare, they're there but they're not there look in their eyes. I recognize that look right away. I could tell when people are on. It's like some people notice when people are high, right? Pedophiles work in the system. There's people like me that could distinguish certain pedophiles. They have a look in their eyes. And that look and that COVID stare that I talk about, there's that uncertainty now, psychological uncertainty, people approaching people, and that's been created. When you look at one of the cons, that COVID stare that people have now, that apprehension stare that they have, that COVID stare, that is not good, and that's why we cannot afford a second lockdown economically, right? Psychologically. For everything, we cannot afford a second lockdown. So by participating with the mask, because they're talking about it, the numbers are rising, the data is showing the numbers are rising, right? And they can't afford a second lockdown. The system can't afford it. Rises and et cetera, in second waves and et cetera. And then you're seeing it across the world, right? Because there's countries like Uruguay where people respect the system and people participate. And guys like myself, I don't wear the mask, but do I have one with myself when I go into areas that it's mandatory? Yes, I wear it. When I go into areas I'm within 6 feet of someone, yes, I wear it, right? So do I wear it? Do I have it readily available? Or if I see that if I'm approaching somebody and they want me to wear the mask, I got one readily available. But do I wear it all the time? Absolutely not. A gorgeous day like today, like 40 plus degree humidex, absolutely not. Right, I'm not into face planting onto concrete. And people that don't understand, those that lose consciousness due to exertion and breathing and etc. That's why they're the heat alerts, and those that are in the health and safety world, and those that do lose consciousness, they will tell you that one moment they were standing there with a broom, next moment they're in front of ambulance people, right? One moment they're holding a hammer, next moment they're on the ground, like done, right? And that's how fast it happens. Just like that, right? People fell off roofs. People, a lot of these things come from this whole breathing. So when you got a face covering and you're in 40-degree humidex and you're working outside, et cetera, not good, right? So that COVID stare that people talk about, that I talk about, but that I see in people's eyes, that apprehension because of the uncertainties now, and then those that don't want to wear the mask, and they're not evil people. Those that don't want to wear the mask because they don't want to wear it. But I ask those that don't want to wear the mask, those like me that don't want to wear it all the time at all, really, please do wear it. participate. Participate in the malls, participate in the public places. It's their place. Remember the expression "when in Rome"? I explained that to my daughters, and I know it down through T, right? When in Rome, what does that mean, right? So when in Rome. So when you're going to these stores and you're going into these malls and you're going to these public places and you're going to areas that you're going to encroach others that are not part of your circle, wear the mask, okay? Because if we don't wear the mask, if we all don't wear the mask, they're going to go to lockdown number 2, and then lockdown number 2, and then you're seeing it already, the $100,000 fines for this, $1 million fine for that. You're seeing all these fines. They're going to get bigger, and it's going to get worse, and etc. And then more people are going to die, etc., right? And then the healthcare system, and psychologically, more divorces, more family breakups, all that stuff. So please participate. So if I go to look at my pros and cons, I'll share my list with you. Please subscribe, join my channel. I've been doing this every day. Haven't missed one episode since March, since the beginning of COVID. I believe it's March 12th, or I can't remember when I actually started, but I haven't missed one. So please subscribe, like my channel, share my channel, and ask those that don't know me to subscribe to my channel. If you like my message, I'll keep them coming. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Merci. Ciao. Gracias.